It feels like it's been about 3 weeks.
Right.
Well, it has been 3 weeks because we had Kristen did the live stream 2 weeks ago. And then last week, my flight was like super delayed. It was awful. Hi there, folks. Welcome to our live stream. My name is Jim, and this is Dr. Tiffany. And welcome to our live stream. I am really looking forward to this one. We are live on Instagram now. We're live on all the major platforms. And this is going to be an awesome hour. I'm really, really excited about this hour. Mainly because of Dr. Tiffany's testimonial that Dr. Tiffany has coming in here. Did I yell or what? You're making a face.
I just realized I'm not on any of my pages. That's what I realized.
Oh.
That's like, dang it. Anyway.
I was like, what did I do wrong?
Not you. Me. Okay.
So I'm really excited about Dr. Tiffany's. Hey, Penny, how are you? I'm really excited about Dr. Tiffany's guest. Truth be told, I actually requested Dr. Tiffany's guest tonight and said, hey, I think this is the story, and I think a lot of people want to know about this. So stick around for this. This testimonial is going to be amazing. So anyway, for those of you who don't know what we are doing or who we are, my name is Jim Grasser, and I used to be a type 2 diabetic. And I love saying that I used to be a type 2 diabetic because I used to be a type 2 diabetic. I have completely reversed type 2 diabetes. I had a 12.2% A1C. I now have a completely unmedicated 4.8% A1C. I've been unmedicated for about 28 months now, and I have a 4.8% A1C. In fact, I do wear a continuous glucose monitor, and I figured I would just share right now. That is my CGM right now. That's a pretty boring, flat line, and completely unmedicated. And I attribute it all to the field rate system. So we're going to talk a lot about the field rate system today. And well, I'll just leave it at that. Dr. Tiffany, why don't you tell people about you?
Yes, I am Dr. Tiffany, and I am a medical doctor, board certified in lifestyle and family medicine, as well as a metabolic health coach with one of my favorite fat scientists, Dr. Ben Bickman. But I actually just was tired of writing prescriptions. I saw too many people with abnormal labs like Jim over there, and people who just didn't really know what to do. So I came across these tools, and I've been able to help people decrease their numbers just like Jim did. Get off their blood pressure medicines, get off their sugar medicines with the help of their providers, and even lose some crazy amount of weight for those who needed it, as well as some of these autoimmune conditions. So I'm so happy we have our testimonial today. So I am excited, nonetheless, to talk about this every Wednesday with my friend over here. And let's go. Let's get into it.
Show up on your own. I don't have to pay you or anything. You just show up.
Right.
You know what? I know, a joke. So you just mentioned Dr. Ben Bickman, and I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because Dr. Tiffany and I were just actually together last weekend in Miami, Florida at a convention. It was the Unicity Rise convention, and Dr. Bickman was the speaker at Rise, and it was really cool. Every time I get an opportunity to listen to him speak, it really is. And there she goes. It really is cool. I guess. Bye, Tiff. So it really is super cool. And it was really, really educational here. And I will say on my YouTube channel, I did upload his speech, what he was saying. And so if you wanted to go and listen to it, he really talked. Well, you guys might know, we talk a lot about insulin resistance. He talked a lot about something called anabolic resistance. And the video that I uploaded to my YouTube, which is the Healthy Pit Master on YouTube, you can find it there. There she is.
Yeah, it won't let me pair my channel. So unfortunately, my people can't see this stuff on my pages. So I am so sorry. I don't know what happened.
That sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we had an opportunity to hang out there. And where I was going with that, Dr. Tiffany, it was super cool that we were able to hang out together, and it was super cool that we got to listen to Dr. Bickman. But in addition to that, it was really cool that I had a lot of people, Dr. Tiffany, come up to me. And I don't know if you had the same thing, but a lot of people came up to me and said, hey, we listen to your live stream every single week, and it's made an impact on us. And actually hearing somebody say that in person was super, super cool. And did you experience any of that?
Oh yes, oh yes, and that is great. That is great to know that other people are connecting and they're being able to have some changes in their life, and even people that they know. So yes, that's what this is about.
And I've got a plan to get this restreamed to yours. It'll just be an hour late.
Oh, okay.
I'll show you how to do that. We'll do that. Okay. So how does this work? First off, if you've been invited here, and there are a lot of people who have been invited here, maybe you've received a notification from a friend or a family member that said, hey, check this out, or somebody shared the YouTube video with you, or you're on TikTok. We are live on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, DLive, you name it. We're live across all sorts of platforms. If you've received a notification saying, hey, go watch this, or somebody shared it with you, that means they think that the information that we're sharing in here could be of benefit to you. So stick around. We're only an hour long, and I'm really excited about today's live stream. I really, really am, Dr. Tiff. I think the world of the gentleman that you've got here to speak anyway, and knowing that there's a little piece of his story that I did not know about, I'm really excited about. So stick around. We're going to talk about the Unicity Field Grade System. If at the end of this you decide, hey, you know what, I think I want to do that, get with the person who referred you here, and they will tell you how to what steps to do next. There are a lot of people watching already. I want to challenge you. If you are watching this live stream and you are passionate about the product like so many people are, and you want to share it, this is a perfect time to share it. So I'm gonna encourage everybody right now to invite 5 people to this. And if you're on Facebook, inviting 5 people is pretty easy. All you do is type that little @ symbol and then start typing their name. When their name pops up, hit enter, and it'll be good to go. Okay. So with that being said, if you decide you want to do something with this, get with the person who invited you here, and they will point you in the right direction. So, Dr. Tiff, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce Johnny.
Yes, yes, yes. I am so excited to introduce this guest. He's become one of my closest buddies, him and his beautiful wife, Beverly. But he is a powerhouse all on his own. So this is an engineer, a smart man. So when he decided he was going to do these products, he wanted to vet it and prove us wrong. I mean, even took pictures from beginning, like every month we had pictures of Johnny. And so he was like, okay, so this stuff does work, and was able to see some weight loss. But we're going to talk about all these other things that he saw happening. And he's a great storyteller. So please bring him in. I don't want to just mess up his story at all.
There he is.
Hey, Johnny.
Hey, how's it going?
Great.
What's up, brother? How are you?
Hey, Jay Master.
So, Johnny, I know you've got a heck of a story, and I want to hear all of the story, but the piece of the story that we were kind of talking about before we started live, if you could just add a little bit, emphasize that part of your story a little bit for those that are listening, because I think people who have that feel like they're lost and hopeless. Okay. So, microphone's yours, brother.
Okay. Well, for me, I look at it from a different vantage point. I know a lot of people are getting introduced, and they might be going through some major challenges right there in that moment. And I remember how I've been in this nutrition space for well over 20 years. I'm an engineer by degree. I've been helping people in the project management area, take care of themselves, airmen, seamen, Marines, soldiers. But taking care of our own health was something that was really important as well, but it didn't always start that way. For me, it started out where I had to deal with chronic inflammation, and I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So it was an intestinal disorder. And so it started us having to learn about what was going on with our bodies. And I went through a whole plethora where at that time, people didn't really know much about Crohn's disease. I mean, I know today you can turn on the TV and you see a commercial every day, all day, about Crohn's and ulcerative colitis and irritable bowel syndrome, but that wasn't the case. And I have a family full of medical personnel, and even in their PDR at the time, there was very little about it. So we just had to deal with it. And the drug of choice at that moment was prednisone. They put me on prednisone, they put me on sulfasalazine, and that's just what they did. The sulfasalazine, we just couldn't do that. It made me feel horrible. I mean, just the sulfur in it, I couldn't sleep. I was irritable. Not personally, I thought it made it worse. And so talking to my GI doctor, he was like, okay, well, okay, we'll take you off that. We'll look for another one, but definitely want you on the prednisone. And I remember looking at this whole list of side effects. It was, you're gonna have moon face, you're gonna, swelling, your skin's gonna get tight, you're gonna, you could possibly have additional cramping, you're gonna water gain. So I was like, okay, I don't really understand all of those, but the one that got me was the mood swing. And anybody knows me, I'm pretty mellow, I'm pretty chill, I can deal with most situations that come. So I was like, okay, that has nothing to do with me. And so I didn't really give credence to the mood, to the side effect portions of it. But one day I'm sitting there and I walk up to the mirror in the bathroom and I'm looking at my face. And if you all can ever remember what a lemon head looked like, that was me. My head had swollen up. If you touch my skin, it was actually tight. It was hard. I think if you hit me hard, it would actually break the skin. And so it was one of those where you were battling. But what really got me was mood swing. What I realized was I wasn't lashing out like you would think somebody having a mood swing or a temper tantrum was, whatever. Mine was I withdrew. I really didn't want to pay much attention to people. I didn't really want to be bothered or around people. So for me, the mood swing, reflecting back on it, was totally opposite. So that was the initial journey I had. And it's like, okay, from that point on, over the last 20 years, I made a point to try to come off of all those medications. And when I got to the point where my weight jumped up, that was a no-go. And so it became a ritual of just continuing to help more and more people. And so we got involved and we started learning about nutrition because to that point, everything was, you got this condition, here's a pill for it. If I talked to the doctor and I said, hey, I'm not doing well, he's like, okay, we're going to step you up on the dosage. If I went to the doctor and I said, I'm doing okay this week, whatever, he's like, okay, we're going to step you down the dosage. We went through that yo-yo for months. I mean, 8, 9, 10 months. And it's like, whatever I told him, he just told me back to other things. Like, if you feeling bad, go up. I said, I can do that myself. So I kind of went through this whole self-regulating, self-dosing, on my own accord. And I just went to him to get the prescription. But when we started getting involved, and my wife went through her set of autoimmune diseases issues as well, someone came to us and said, have you ever thought about introducing food as medicine? That whole concept was foreign to us. And so as we began that trek, it was like, okay, inflammation was something that was rampant. It's not you break your arm and it swells. It wasn't that type of inflammation. It was inflammation within your system that really started making a difference. And we start learning about that. And we start learning about how, you eat certain foods and your body responds to it different ways. Those are things that if you didn't have someone actually telling you about it, it would just not be common to you. It wasn't when we had all this social media as it is now. You can just Google and do the YouTube thing all day long. And we went through that. And we had a friend that we were involved with, and she came to us and said, hey, I know what we've been doing has been doing good, but I found something that has had made a tremendous impact on our community. And so my wife was like, hey, you do well with it. Let us know how it works out. 9 months later, our friend A. Marie, which we all accustomed to, she said, hey, you know what? This is working so well. I've walked off my job. Now, she too is an engineer. And so we've had a relationship and we kind of understood, like, okay, if she just walked off her job and I know what was going on with her and what she made and all that stuff, I was like, okay, it makes where we have to take a closer look at it. And so when we did, I said, okay, I'll try it myself. Have nothing to lose. But I understood baseline. That meant I can't change 20 or 30 different things at one time and know what one thing made a difference. So all I did was add this simple protocol to my diet. In the first 30 days, I had lost 10 pounds. I had lost 2.5 inches. I was sleeping better. And I thought that was great. The next 30 days, I was like, you know what? It worked well that simply. I'm going to add exercise to it because I couldn't add the exercise before. I couldn't change my diet before. Well, in the next 30 days, I lost another 10 pounds and another 2.5 inches, even without doing the exercise. But I also stopped, you having to use my CPAP machine. My bowel movements were better. I wasn't having the flare-ups anymore. We start seeing this. People are dealing with irritable bowel syndromes or ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, the intestinal tract is one of the things that we're very sensitive to because anything could spark it, anything spicy, anything that's rough to it. That's why I stopped eating certain foods a long time ago because of the roughage. But with this protocol, it's made to where my bowel movements have probably been the best it's been in the last 10, 15 years. Now I'm down well over 35 pounds. I've lost 5.5 inches. I sleep well. That CPAP machine. Now, my wife, she is hitting me on that all the time because to her it was a deal breaker. It was a marriage breaker. but I feel better about it, just in terms of my overall well-being, and it's made a difference. I think when I met the first person, even the weight loss part, I was proud of my little 35 pounds. But when I met the first person who had lost 100, I was like, now that's something special to be so simple to not be having to do some extreme exercise, whatever. But then they start introducing me to another person, and another person, and another person, and I was like, this can't just be happenstance. And when I saw people coming off their medications, they've been on it for 5, 10, 25 years, I was like, you know what? We are all doing the exact same simple protocol, and it's made that type of impact to where now people I'm sharing it with are having similar results. And I was like, this is real. This is something that, like I said, I've been doing this over 20 years, but the impact that we're having, I look at things as being foundational, which is nutrition in general. But what we're doing with this is functional, and it's making a difference where you don't have to ask people what their blood work looks like. You don't have to ask them how they feel. You can see a difference even before you approach them. And so for me, it's been incredible.
Yes, I loved all of that. I mean, the CPAP machine alone is enough to just change the whole game. Okay, you save a marriage with that.
Okay, so I'm gonna. I should know better than this, but I'm really naive as to what exactly Crohn's disease is. What exactly? It's an autoimmune.
Crohn's disease is an autoimmune disease where it attacks yourself. Any autoimmune disease basically means where you are overacting. Your body tries to protect itself at all costs. But in this case, your body attacks itself, and where it attacks it is kind of what the disease is going to be. In my case, is in the intestinal tract. Well, one of the difference between Crohn's and ulcerative colitis and other things is with Crohn's, it doesn't just stay in the intestines. It can be anywhere along my entire digestive tract, everything from my mouth all the way down to my anus. And I was like, at first I thought maybe I had the best one until I actually start, doing a comparison like, oh snap, this is the one that moves and doesn't have it doesn't stay in that one location and progress slowly. It can just be anywhere. And so, I remember being at work some days and I would be in such pain. The cramping was so painful. I would just tell my coworkers, hey, if anybody comes in here, just tell them I'm working under computer wires underneath my desk, because the fetal position is almost like the most comfortable position you can be in at that time. And so I sympathize and empathize with anybody going through that, because it's not like you can just put a Band-Aid on your intestinal tract.
Yeah.
So when you were at the height of I guess, what are we going to call it, a flare up? Is that what this is? Is that what this is, a flare up? Mm-hmm. And what do you do to come off of that? What does a doctor do, Tiffany, when somebody comes in like that? What do they do? There's prednisone, I heard, right?
Steroids. That's not all they have. Steroids.
Literally, it's really? Because think about the inflammation.
Okay.
Most people think something inflames is always expanding. But when you talk about your intestinal tract, which is more like a tube, the exterior part might expand, but the interior part constricts. And so now you can't get anything through. So it's a buildup of pressure, and it's a blockage where nothing is passing. So if you've eaten or hadn't eaten, now you got stuff trapped in your system. And so one of the things I even like about this protocol is that the fact that it has anti-inflammatory properties, which has been tremendous. And when you're thinking about it, a lot of times we focus on a condition, but your body doesn't know what you're talking about. Think about it. If you had a headache, Tiffany had a backache, and somebody else thumped their toe, but they all took an aspirin, how does the aspirin know where to go? Your body says, this is what I need right now to help me deal with what I'm trying to deal with. And so with inflammation, which could be anywhere and everywhere at the same time, because there's no limit to say you can't cross this threshold, by dealing with the inflammation overall, all those things start actually reducing both on the exterior and interior parts of that.
So an interesting There's an interesting comment over on TikTok. I love fur babies. Says my son has it and had to get chemo. Can you guys? I think I'm cutting out here. I said, can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My son has it and had to get chemotherapy. Those are unrelated, aren't they? Or would there be any reason to treat Crohn's with chemo?
Technology has moved. I'll let Dr. Tiffany refer to that one, but
I mean, sometimes they use chemotherapeutic agents. They use those drugs. Because again, when you're dealing with something, I like to call autoimmune diseases those conditions that the medical community is like, I don't really know what happened. Your body's attacking itself. So let's just throw everything at you. That's how you end up on sulfasalazine. I mean, and so you see these types of choices because there's nothing to do. Yeah, I mean, what you're going to do, you got to shut down the immune system. What's the best way to do that? Those chemotherapeutic agents. So in some instances, yes, that is actually what's being used.
oftentimes when you get to the extreme cases, a lot of times they do surgeries and actually cut out whole sections of your intestinal tract, and so for that, there's things people don't realize just how serious that condition can be. I've been blessed enough to I'm gonna say get ahead of it, and he just blessed me for it. Don't wish it upon anyone, but since I was diagnosed with it, and I tell people on paper, I'm always gonna have a diagnosis of Crohn's. But if I'm not having flare-ups anymore, and I can do all the things that I would have done if I hadn't had the diagnosis, I'll every day. So again, I'm in a state which is a blessing. So anything you can do to help keep inflammation down, I think is something that is worthwhile. Right now, we're talking about Crohn's, but inflammation can be everything from arthritis. It could be gout. It could be what inflammation is. Inflammation just depends on what is attacking at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is awesome, educational, and I learn something new every single week. I feel like I've been getting better at this space, and you realize real quickly how little you actually do know. There's so many different things going on. But it does kind of bring me to me. I'm going to do an interesting little plug here. And check this out. For those who have not seen it yet, Unimate Fierce. Anybody seen this one yet? So it is, it's got ginger rolls in it to help with inflammation. And I've already got inflammation pretty well under control. This stuff is amazing. Absolutely amazing. A little bit toasty. It's hot. It is a hot drink. It is a hot drink. But yeah, pretty cool. Okay. Dr. Tiff, Johnny, I would like to turn your camera off, but keep you around in case anybody has any questions. So can I turn off your camera and bring you back here in a little bit towards the end of the live stream in case anybody has any questions for you?
Thank you, Johnny.
Brother. I love Johnny. He's a good dude.
He is.
Great dude. Dr. Tiff, will you explain to us what's going on here?
Yes, let's do that.
And I just hooked myself up while Johnny was talking. I hooked myself up with a hard wire, so hopefully my connection stays a little more steady.
Okay.
40, yes, that is Unimate Fierce. It was available last weekend in Miami, kind of as an early test thing. Look for it in the next 3 weeks, I'm told. Should be on the website the next 2 or 3 weeks. And it's incredible. It is hot. You got to like hot. It is definitely
spicy.
It's hot. Spicy. Yes, spicy. It actually, when I just dump it into my cup, I have to be careful because if you catch just the mist of it, it'll get you coughing. So, but it's really good. I do like it. If you like ginger, you're gonna love it. It's definitely got a ginger. I'm not going to call it a bite anymore. It's an aggressive bite. It's not a nibble. If lemon ginger is a nibble, it is an aggressive bite. So, okay, Dr. Tiff, I don't see where it's. There it is. Okay.
Oh, really? It took that long to come up? My goodness. Okay.
No, it was. I just.
Alrighty. So the problem. What are we dealing with? We're dealing with metabolic health, and I keep talking about the same problem because this is still the problem. 93% of Americans actually have poor metabolic health. If you look at this is saying only 7%, but I'm worried about the 93%. Okay. That's a lot of people. And the prescriptions that we use to try to help and decrease this risk, because this risk puts us at risk for heart disease, are things like statins, and that decreases the risk for cardiovascular disease, dying of a heart or stroke, by 1%. That's 1 out of 100 people. But we have some studies that show when you make some lifestyle interventions, you can actually decrease your risk for those issues by 39%. And so, like any other doctor, I decided I wanted to change the world. And I came out and I was doing the regular protocol, following the algorithms. You have diabetes, you get this med. You have high blood pressure, you get this med. And what I was finding after 20 years of practicing is that I had people just like this lady here come to see me with an armful of medications, okay? I was not getting to the root cause. I thought I was doing the right things, but I had to learn more. And so once I started really understanding that, look, this really isn't about our genetics. This is about how well we take care of our bodies. And so this is my little picture I like to always talk about. You know, I think of the genetics as the land we are gifted, okay? And so you can till that land and get some great crops, or you can kind of treat that land like crap and not get good crops. I mean, bottom line, that's what I love, is that it's really in our hands to actually improve. So heart disease, I mean, has been the #1 killer for decades, people. Yeah, the numbers have come down, but it still is holding its #1 slot. Why? Because we aren't really getting to the root cause. If you look at this picture here, insulin resistance is in the middle. And yes, you have heart disease, the #1 killer. You have the cancer, you have the diabetes, the dementia, the stroke, migraines. All these things are either linked directly or indirectly with this insulin resistance here in the middle. And I'm going to go over some of these. Now, usually when I say insulin resistance, I know a lot of you immediately think diabetes. That's what everybody thinks. Like, that's the only thing here. But look at all these other things on this page. All these other things are actually linked or indirectly linked to insulin resistance. And so what is insulin resistance? So let's break down the macronutrients. You have carbohydrates, you have proteins, you have fats. That's what those macronutrients are from what we eat, okay? This red arrow is the amount of insulin that happens with each macronutrient. So your carbohydrates, that's the red line, that has the highest amount of insulin spike when you eat that, okay? The protein has a little bit, but not much. And then the fat, barely any. So it's the carbohydrates that really kick up the insulin response. So when we try to understand how do we get to resistance, it's important to do some sort of graph to kind of get an idea of what our day of eating can look like. So if you're like many of the people that I used to tell, and I used to tell people this, and lots of people in the healthcare community did, we said, eat every couple hours, get your metabolism going. So you're eating every couple hours. And then the global nutrient database shows that, shoot, 3/4 of the food that we're eating across the world is carbohydrates. So we're eating a lot of carbohydrates and we're eating frequently. So when you wake up in the morning and you have your breakfast, say it's a muffin, it's oatmeal, it's pancakes, it's French toast, all those things, if you're listening, are carbohydrates. And so it's going to cause a glucose spike, because that's what carbohydrates break down into in your bloodstream, okay? That causes the pancreas to release insulin. So there's your insulin spike. And then, you know, that sugar comes down and you're kind of getting tired again. And you think, I need me a mid-morning snack. And what are the things you're going to reach for? It's not going to be a Slim Jim, is it? For most people, it's not. It's going to be something carbohydrate, maybe a granola bar, maybe some chips or something. That breaks into glucose, kicks up the insulin again, right? Same thing with lunch. Maybe it's pizza, maybe it's pasta, maybe it's a sandwich, maybe it's a wrap because you thought you were trying to do something healthy. Well, they'll still break down into carbohydrates, okay? And now the insulin's up again. Afternoon snack, you know, the insulin's climbing up again. Dinner, insulin's climbing up again. And if you have dessert, I mean, yeah, still climbing up. And what happens is it never has time to come all the way down. And you bathe yourselves in this, and over time, they stop listening. They become resistant. So here it is. This is insulin, this little black figurine here, trying to push glucose into the cell. I mean, this is a simplistic view of this, okay? So, I mean, there's receptors involved here, but I'm not going to go into that. But it's trying to push glucose into the cell, your liver, muscle, and your fat cells. So in order to see why this matters, it's important to see if you're having any of these symptoms, right? Cravings for sugar and salty, difficulty losing weight, particularly around the middle, that midsection weight, that visceral fat. Yeah, that's the stuff that actually kills us. It's not about us having a snatched waist. We really need that fat down so we don't have heart disease. Okay. Then you have the dark patches on your neck. That's not dirt. The skin tags, those are all from overgrowth of insulin. Insulin can act like a growth hormone and overgrow this, okay? We also have it to where it's messing up the women's menstrual cycles. And I'm actually going to go into this, but these are the symptoms we need to pay attention to. And so hemoglobin A1C. So for years, in regards to diabetes, the focus has just been sugar without really paying attention to what happens before the sugar goes up. I like to call that frustration land. So here, what you see is when your A1C is less than 5.6, that's a normal A1C. But how many people are in this normal place and have those symptoms I just showed you? So many people. I used to see them and I would do all this work for them, try to do all these labs and everything because I didn't know about fasting insulin. And I became frustrated and they were frustrated because they weren't feeling any better. And so a lot of times they'll go out with a new prescription and increased dosage on something, really because the doctor doesn't know exactly why they are feeling like they're feeling. Okay. But in this period of this frustration land, your insulin is high because your insulin is trying to push that glucose into the cell. And especially when you keep doing those carbohydrates, your insulin stays high. And what it does is your pancreas just keeps pumping out more insulin to get that glucose into the cell. It just keeps pumping it out. And so you don't really get the sugar high in the bloodstream till the pancreas gets tired. So before then, you have the pancreas just making more and more insulin to overcome the cell's resistance until it fails. Okay. And when the insulin is high, it starts causing problems. So that's when we start getting issues like sodium retention, when you restrict the blood vessels, when you have inflammation in the blood vessels, and when you don't allow nitric oxide to work because that allows the cells to relax. So when that doesn't work appropriately because insulin is high, what happens? The blood pressure goes up. Okay, so that's how blood pressure is even related. And then when your insulin is high, it messes with your cholesterol too. You get more triglycerides in the bloodstream. You get fat breakdown a little bit more to where you get more circulating fat. You also get decreased clearance. So now you have LDL levels rise. And the ones that rise, they're the small particles, the ones that get in the blood vessels and increase our risk for heart disease and strokes. Okay, that's how heart disease gets involved. Then you have how it actually affects PCOS. That's that polycystic ovarian syndrome, the leading cause of infertility amongst women. It causes cysts on the ovaries. It increases weight gain because when there's too much insulin, it's going to store that glucose as fat. It causes hair loss, facial hair growth, but it also disrupts menstrual cycles and even how you ovulate for women, resulting in difficulty getting pregnant. And then menopause. It actually causes erectile dysfunction because we already talked about how it messes with the blood vessels, causes constriction. Well, that doesn't really help ED. And then the low testosterone because it messes with the conversion from the testosterone to estrogen to where you have more estrogen. That's how you get the man boobs. That's how you get the decreased testosterone. And of course, the rose.
Did you say menopause?
Menopause. Yes, I made up a word.
No, I just wanted to make sure I heard that right. I didn't go back to my corner.
I made up a word. I sure did. And so when you get that low testosterone, what happens is that also messes with the ED. This was my doorknob questions that I would get from my men. Oh, by the way, Dr. Tiffany. Yeah, by the way, insulin resistance. Okay. Then it also messes with dementia. Okay. When you don't get glucose uptake into the brain, then you start feeling foggy, confused. And because your insulin is high, you aren't breaking down to make ketones because ketones are a good energy source, but you're not making that because your insulin is too high. And so you don't have anything really feeding your brain. That's where dementia comes from. The migraines are actually involved with those spikes of blood sugars. The Alzheimer's, that's literally called type 3 diabetes. I mean, this stuff is in the science. This isn't stuff I'm just saying on my own. This is real stuff, people. And then insulin resistance and autoimmune conditions. I am just so amazed at our body. So when insulin resistance is here, because insulin is too high, it causes a chronic inflammation, okay? And that chronic inflammation, it messes with the T cell function. That's the big problem here. And your T cells are really there to tell your body what not to attack, okay? And so I'm sure some of y'all see where I'm going with this. And so since it's impairing that function, your body's going to start attacking stuff it doesn't need to. So when you have gut dysbiosis is when you have a different amount of flora in your gut. So we have trillions of bacteria in our gut. That's called the gut microbiome. Well, if you've been feeding your gut the wrong things, processed foods, fried foods, toxins, because we're in an environment now to where we're exposed to toxins and all types of things, right? That's going to throw off the normal flora, what's supposed to be there to help us break down our foods, to protect us, right? So when you get that wrong balance in there, that actually worsens the inflammation. Then you get the leaky gut issues. And so because of the chronic inflammation, you'll get some permeability of your gut. And so that's going to allow some of those toxins, some of the bacteria, some of the stool to leak out into your abdominal cavity, get all around everywhere where it's not supposed to be. And your immune system's job is to go attack all that, right? So it's going to attack all that. But since your T cells are all screwed and confused, it's also going to attack you. And then it can attack the intestines. You get things like Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, attacking the bones. You get things like rheumatoid arthritis. I mean, lupus even affects the joints too. You get things like interstitial lung disease when it attacks the lungs. You get Hashimoto's, thyroiditis when it attacks the thyroid gland. You get multiple sclerosis when it attacks the brain. The point is, chronic inflammation and insulin resistance play a role in this. That's why we see people like Johnny having things like those autoimmune conditions, having good results when they start addressing the insulin resistance. So these are 5 things you can do immediately. You don't have to do anything else. You can stop right here if you can do all these things. So 1, you want to do more of a low glycemic index diet. And we can go into where you can find that information. That ends up being low carb. But if you prioritize your protein and prioritize your healthy fats and your fiber, do your fiber first, you won't eat as many carbs, because after you do all that, you're full. The next thing, the only thing I'm restrictive about when I talk to my members, my customers, is no processed carbs, because none of that was made for human consumption. If you look at the back of that stuff, you will see that there are way too many things in there and you don't even know what it's saying. It's like chemical terms. And I didn't read that when I was in medical school. It's ridiculous. That is not for us to be eating. Okay. And then resistance training, building the muscle is actually huge. We need that. We need that for longevity so we don't die, break a hip. We need to be able to get up off the floor when we're 70. And not only that, it helps actually increase GLP-1 production. And then high fiber, because that also breaks down in your gut, actually to help with anti-inflammatory components. So we need that. We need that to help with inflammation that comes with the insulin resistance. And then the fasting. And this can be something simple like time-based eating, to where you just don't snack between your meals, or it can be a 16-8 schedule to where you can tap into autophagy. So, of course, like I said, stop the processed foods. Nobody needs to eat these. That's all this stuff right here. Packaged, boxed, barcoded. And the reality is these things have become addictive for so many people. I mean, if you see any of these symptoms and you think you can relate to that, you probably are dealing with sugar addiction. And your brain is liking it. It's kicking up the dopamine when you're eating these high sugar, high carbohydrate foods. And once it kicks up that dopamine, you're like looking for the next hit. And then it almost feels like you're being taunted to eat more. And I'm not saying carbs are the enemy, but unfortunately, the carbs that we have been stripped of the fiber, the natural way to keep us from having these glucose spikes. We pulled them out of our foods. Our white rice doesn't have that fiber in there. Our juices, that 100% juice, doesn't have the fiber anymore. So we're getting the straight sugar. So we're getting the sugar, no chaser. That's what's happening, but that's not how it's supposed to happen. And so why do we need the fiber? It decreases the blood sugar. It dampens the effect of those spikes, and it helps the pancreas to get a break so your cells can become more insulin sensitive. Now, the different colors in our fruits and vegetables actually are because of polyphenols, and they have an anti-inflammatory benefit as well as improving GLP-1 production. So they decrease inflammation in the body, but they can actually improve GLP-1 production. And like I was talking about with fasting, the big benefits of fasting is when we tap into autophagy. Removing toxins, improving cognitive function, increasing energy to the mitochondria, which are like the battery to the cells, and clearing infections, viruses, huge things. And these things start to happen when you get past 16, 17 hours to 72 hours. And Dr. Osumi got the Nobel Prize for this in 2016. It's real science, people. And so you see all that and you're like, well, I've heard of these shots. And so can they help in any of this? Well, I'm going to tell you, you don't need the shots to help with your GLP-1, because GLP-1 is a hormone we already have. It comes from the gut, the small intestines. And so it delays gastric emptying and it activates your satiety center. So you feel full. That's what it's supposed to do. And so pharmaceutical companies figured this out. They made a drug that was originally for diabetes, and it binds to a receptor to pretend like it's your GLP-1 hormone. And then that's that Ozempic Wegovy stuff. But of course, that's going to come with some baggage. I mean, 40% of the weight loss is from lean muscle mass. So that's including your bone and your muscle, people. And then you have serious complications: the thyroid cancer risk, the pancreatitis, the gastroparesis. That's when your gut just doesn't want to move anymore. We need that. Or gut perforation, when you get a hole in your gut. Yeah, that's a problem. I just told y'all about leaky gut. That is not okay. Not only that, when you do lose all this weight, like I said, because you're losing so much muscle and bone, what you gain back is mostly fat. And so that's why you have so many people say, oh, but I've gained so much more weight. than I started out with when I stopped this abruptly, because you're stopping it because of all those side effects, for one. And then after 2 years, how it's supposed to help with the cravings, what we're finding out with these injections is that it doesn't do that anymore. And so you end up needing more drugs, a higher dosage. And I saw this in practice, or a new medication altogether. So why not? Why not do something natural? So with the chlorogenic acid that's in the tea that we're going to go into, it actually boosts your GLP-1. I mean, that is actually a polyphenol. So then it helps with that and improves inflammation. That's huge, okay? And decreases antioxidant stress, oxidative stress. That's what actually puts us at risk for heart disease. And then on top of that, we have the fiber in this. That treats our microbiome where these trillions of bacteria lie. And so it gives us that fiber we need to help heal our gut. Bottom line, insulin resistance is not genetic. It's 100% lifestyle. And not that you are doing necessarily something wrong. Some of the stuff you were told to do. But we're here to tell you there's actually some tools that can help you to get control back. And so because I get to say all that every day, I feel like a superhero. And this is why I love doing what I do. You can find me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. That's all I got.
Beast mode right there. That was awesome. And I had things, I was like, you know what? I was going to kind of go on, and I was like, no, I don't need to do that. You just covered everything. I love that. There were a couple things, though, that I am going to kind of dive into. You really just covered everything. And a couple weeks ago, I talked about like the Cleveland Clinic and the University of Sydney and Balance and BioSlife and all those. So I want to kind of touch on a couple of things really quick, but you kind of just really hit everything. So easy. Okay, so real quick, I want to talk about BioSlife. Unicity BioSlife. And maybe some of you guys have heard of Unicity BioSlife. This was developed by Rexall Pharmacy in the late 80s, early 90s. BioSlife. It was released as BioSlife. It is available in South Korea. It's available in the Far East. The Middle East, I'm sorry. In the United States, instead of calling it BioSlife, we call it Balance. And of course, it's no longer packaged like this. Now it's packaged like this. So Balance has been studied all over the world. It's been studied at the Cleveland Clinic. And the Cleveland Clinic, if you're unaware, is kind of widely perceived to be one of the top heart hospitals in North America and one of the finest in the world, really. And they found that it could, and I quote, regular use could reduce cardiovascular risk on a population basis and potentially decrease the need and or dose for lipid-lowering prescription drugs. It's a very powerful statement from the Cleveland Clinic. Basically, they're telling you that it could reduce the risk, reduce the need and or dose for statin medication. Boy, I'm getting tongue-tied. You got me, Dr. Tiff. That was amazing. I really am. And then the University of Sydney. The University of Sydney is the home of the glycemic index, and they maintain the International Glycemic Index database as well as website. They too have studied BioSlife Balance, and they found that it caused a 20 to 28% reduction in blood glucose levels, a 13 to 27% reduction in blood insulin levels. In-house tests within Unicity have shown 34 to 37% reductions at 30 and 45 minutes respectively in blood glucose. Just absolutely massive numbers. It lowers the University of Sydney, Australia said that it lowered the glycemic index of all three test foods, white bread, white rice, and mashed potato, from high to medium. Really what that means is it took a really bad food and just made it a little better. But it's Unimate. Since I'm sipping on my Unimate Fierce, which, by the way, it'll be out in a few weeks. Keep your eye open for it. I think I gave the impression that it was super hot. It's not hard. It's definitely got a punch, though. And I love it. I'm absolutely loving it. I bought 4 boxes, and I thought I would alternate between Fierce and lemon like I do with lemon ginger, and I haven't. I've actually been doing nothing but drinking this Fierce. It's really good. And amazing anti-inflammatory properties. So if you like a little bit of spice and you've got an inflammation issue, this is really a great tool. But let's dig into Unimate a little bit more. I want to talk about Unimate, and since I have a little bit of time, I'm going to do it. It's available in 3 different flavors: lemon, lemon and ginger, and then coming really soon is in the next 3 weeks, Fierce. And Fierce is just another version of lemon ginger, just more of a kick. Gingerols, it's got some added things to really ramp up some of the benefits from it. But Unimate, what is Unimate? Unimate is a yerba mate extract. And when I say a yerba mate extract, let's talk about what is yerba mate. Yerba mate is a South American tea. It's been pretty heavily consumed for the last 500 to 1,000 years in South America. It's indigenous to the regions that are now Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, parts of Uruguay. There's a thick red clay-like soil, and the rainforest really is kind of the only place that leaf will grow. It grows in shade. It doesn't really want the sunlight like other plants, other vegetation. And it is harvested. The trained eye to know when the leaf is ready to be harvested, it's really a skilled job. There's about a 1 week window throughout the year, as I understand it, to harvest that leaf. And they just have to know what they're looking for. Once they've harvested it, they fire roast it, and then they serve it loose leaf form. It's like in this mate cup, they call it, with a straw that has a very special filtered tip, so you don't suck up the leaf. They crumble the leaf. It's been fire roasted. They crumble it. They steep it in hot water. It's a family tradition. One person will take a sip on it. They hand it to the person next to them. They'll take a sip on it, and they'll do that. Now, the people of South America would say that it gave them an amazing boost of energy. It had appetite suppression, all sorts of things, mental clarity. All of those can be attributed to, as Dr. Tiffany was talking about, chlorogenic acid. And then there's theobromine and mate saponins and all these antioxidants and all sorts of wonderful things. Now, what is Unimate? Unimate is a yerba mate extract. So Unicity buys the leaf, the yerba leaf, from those original farmers in South America. They still fire roast it in a very similar way to the way that it's always been done, but then they stop the traditional process and they extract the good things that we want, things like chlorogenic acid, theobromine, mate saponins, those sorts of things, and then they concentrate it and then they purify it and they get rid of the things that we don't want, things like heavy metals and pesticides and that sort of thing. Now, that product has about 20 times the chlorogenic acid of a typical cup of yerba mate and about 10 times the chlorogenic acid of a typical cup of coffee. So if you are seeing, and you probably are seeing a lot of ads for yerba mate, it's not apples to apples. One of these packets is about 20 of those. So it's not apples to apples. Okay. Now, I want to go down the GLP-1 path a little bit, and this one's going to be pretty easy, I believe. So let's go. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, you can see this screen, right? So this is Dr. Andrew Huberman. And Dr. Huberman is an associate professor of neurobiology and, by courtesy of, psychiatry and behavioral sciences. He's a brain scientist. That's what he does at Stanford Medicine. In fact, he got his bachelor's degree from the University of California, Santa Barbara, his master's from Cal Berkeley, his PhD from Cal Davis, and his postdoctorate work from Stanford University. This guy is quite brilliant. In fact, I'm going to give him a little bit of a plug. If you are into podcasts, maybe you're a truck driver or you have extended drives or you're sitting around the house at night and you want to listen to a podcast, he hosts the #1 ranked, and I say he hosts because it's second to Dr. Tiffany and I, the #1 ranked health-related podcast in the world. Don't laugh, Tiffany. I've said that with authority. It's called Huberman Lab, and it's a really, really good, very informative podcast. And what makes Dr. Huberman so special is the guy is quite brilliant. He is literally just brilliant. But the way that he explains things, he makes it so average people like myself can understand him. Now, he's been on Jimmy Fallon, The Tonight Show. Jimmy Fallon's had him on, and as has Joe Rogan. Let me see here. Can you see my screen there, Tiff?
Yes.
Okay. So this is Dr. Andrew Huberman on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he's talking about yerba mate tea and GLP-1, exactly what Dr. Tiffany was just talking about.
People won't do the thing. Right now, there's a lot of excitement about semaglutide.
Yeah. Okay,
so this is a GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide. The story of that is, since you like animals and the natural world, a guy down in South America was looking at Gila monsters, those really scary
Whoa.
things. And he realized they don't have to eat very often. I wonder if they're hungry all the time or not. Turns out it takes their blood, isolates a peptide, which turns out to be GLP-1, puts it into other animals, and realizes it suppresses appetite. Amazing, right? Like this is what I love about biology. Some dude who studies Gila monsters. Turns out humans make GLP-1. GLP-1 is stimulated by things like yerba mate tea. Certain other compounds, plant compounds, stimulate its release. But what does it do in the hypothalamus? It suppresses hunger by way of, there's a particular brain arcuate pathway, blah, blah, blah. But it also affects the mechanosensors of the gut so that you feel like your gut's full. Like it's almost like you're getting like a pharmacologic tummy, stapled stomach, right? So when people take a drug that mimics GLP-1, their brain is like, I'm not as hungry, and their stomach feels full even though it's empty. And so people lose weight.
Pretty fascinating, I feel like. Okay, so with that as the groundwork, I want to talk about this guy right here. This is Dr. Benjamin Bickman, and this is his profile on BYU's website. You'll notice it's BYU's College of Life Sciences, Cell Biology and Physiology. See, Dr. Ben Bickman is a professor of cell biology and physiology, and you heard Dr. Tiffany mention him earlier. She is a coach for him on his site called insuliniq.com. I really encourage everybody to go check that out, and I'll give him a quick plug. He wrote 2 books. One of them is called Why We Get Sick. That will change your life. Read that book, Why We Get Sick. He also wrote a book, How Not to Get Sick, and it's a cookbook. If you're looking for cooking ideas, How Not to Get Sick by Dr. Ben Bickman is a great place to start. Okay, so you'll notice that his research interests, he is in charge of the Laboratory of Obesity and Metabolism at BYU, and he pays particular emphasis on the etiology of insulin resistance. That's what Dr. Ben Bickman does. Now, this study right here, this is PubMed Central. It's an official website of the United States government, and this study was actually published in October of 2023 in Nutrients. Now, you'll notice yerba mate supplement exerts beneficial tissue-specific effects on mitochondrial efficiency and redox status in healthy adult mice. That is a mouthful. Dr. Ben Bickman, you'll see he was the top dog on this study. And as we scroll down a little bit, the materials and methods, you will see that he used Unicity's Unimate. Now, this study right here, really what he found was that it made us a more efficient fat burner. It made you a better fat burner. And I believe everybody wants to be a better fat burner. But a byproduct of this study, if you will, something that he observed alongside of this, now he did not publish it, but he has talked about it, and I'm about ready to play it, was that Unimate increases GLP-1 by up to 70% during a fasted state.
That I'll be sharing at a meeting in March in Las Vegas is that this yerba mate supplement called Unimate also increases GLP-1. We found in this experiment we did, the GLP-1 levels went up by about 70% in a fasted state, which is pretty considerable.
So how does this work? How does the system work? It's pretty simple. When you buy a box, you're going to get 2 packets of tea per day, and you're going to get 1 balance. Wake up in the morning and drink a tea. It's the first thing that I do. Now, Dr. Tiffany tends to drink hers cold. I tend to drink mine hot. Dr. Tiffany, they're going to send you a bottle. Tiff, do you have yours?
Yes.
Of course, I don't have mine. They're going to send you a bottle just like that. I don't use that for the tea because I want to add a little more water. I think it's a little bit strong when I drink it in that concentrated, so I add a little bit more water, about twice as much water, and I add hot water. I drink it out of a Yeti thermal. Okay, so when that's done, drink the second tea. It's going to increase your GLP-1. It's going to increase your appetite suppression. If you feel like when you've tried to fast in the past and you're just staring at the clock, it kind of takes the edge off of that. You kind of are okay without it. Now, when you're done with that and you're ready to break your fast, you take the balance. It's available in mixed berry or natural orange. You take that 1 balance, you mix it up in the same bottle that Dr. Tiffany had right there, and you chug it. You chug it fast, and then you enjoy your meal. And guys, that is the entire system. The tea, I like to break it down. Everybody breaks it down, and whatever price-wise they can do it, right? whatever they're most comfortable with. But I like to say that this tea right here costs $2.25. It costs $2.20. Given all the health benefits that it provides, $2.25 seems like a pretty decent buy. When I drink 2 of them per day, I spend $4.50 on tea. If I calculated that out over 30 days, that would be $135. And that's what you would pay buying a booster pack of this from Unicity, is $135. The kit costs $159, which means that balance, the fiber, costs about $24 or about 80 cents a drink. So immediately before your meal, drink one of those. Now, Unicity offers a 90-day money-back guarantee. You can use your HSA or your FSA funds on it. They also accept every major form of payment, or Visa, MasterCard, American Express. If you're interested in trying the product, what I'm going to say is go into this with a 90-day mindset. They offer a 90-day money-back guarantee. Test it. Test it. Give it 90 days of your honest, best effort, and I'm betting you feel better. And if you don't, ask for a refund. They'll give you all your money back. What have I missed, Dr. Tiff?
I don't think you missed anything.
Get everything? Okay, what I want to do is bring Johnny back. And what we're going to do is, this is a great opportunity for anybody who's listening to ask questions. If you have questions, this is a great time. You've got an opportunity to ask Dr. Tiffany questions. Johnny has had an amazing testimonial. Ask him, poke holes in his story. And then, of course, if you have a question that I'm able to answer it, I can do that as well. I want to just check over to TikTok really quick. Man, we got a lot of activity on TikTok. Coach Ken is saying reverse diet. Coach Ken, by the way, thank you for filling in for me last week. Thank you, Kristen, for filling in for me 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And Dr.
Esther, yes. And thank you for Chris.
Yep.
They were awesome.
Okay, so Coach Ken, who was the host last week, says reverse diabetes, lowered blood pressure, no more migraines, acid reflux, and down 50 pounds. Lucy, no more type 2, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol, dropped 24 pounds in 90 days. Deb says headaches, fatigue, low testosterone, allergies, gone down 75 pounds, feel amazing, love this system. Casey says got rid of the neuropathy. That's a big one. If you suffer from pain, tingling, or numbness in the feet, legs, or extremities, neuropathy, give it a shot. Casey says he got rid of neuropathy, migraines, acid reflux, blurry vision. There's one that we don't talk enough about, Dr. Tiffany. Arthritis. I've noticed a difference in arthritis, and that really ties into what this conversation's been about the inflammation. Let's see. What am I missing? Tanya Lee, I reversed type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, off 4 meds, down 45 pounds, reduced 24/7 oxygen therapy to nighttime only. Absolutely amazing. Okay. Sheena, beat gastroparesis. Okay, we do have a question here. Did you need to start on half a packet of the fiber with your Crohn's, or did it not bother you? Great question. That one's for you, Johnny. I think he froze up.
Or maybe, are you still muted?
You might be muted, brother. What a time for him to freeze up. We can't get that guy to quit talking.
No. Oh, so weird.
Man.
Well,
there he goes. There you go. Try it again, Johnny.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, anytime anyone has an intestinal disorder or any other sensitivity, you want to start on maybe half of the dosage or a lot more water, because you want to see how their system responds. Remember, you're going from 0 to some number greater. And if depending on how toxic their system is, how sensitive the system is, how compromised their system is, you don't want to put it into shock. Remember, this is concentrated, whole food. And so anytime you're stepping through that, just step into it, because now their body can gradually start improving. Because remember, I tell people, this is not something that's just going to help you poop. This is literally designed to help heal your system. And it takes time because you didn't get there overnight. But yeah, gradually stepping into it allows it to, over time, get the inflammation down slowly, but you want the sustained effects of it. So yeah, I would definitely step into it.
Great question. Great answer. Blenda, 68 years old, 68 years young, lost 120 pounds. I'm off all meds, feel at least 20 years younger, and will never stop the Feel Great system.
Awesome. I love your story, Blenda, every time.
Blenda's story. Everybody loves Blenda's story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions, and I'm going to ask real quick. Did you see any questions, Dr. Tiff, that I've missed?
Michael Martin had a question. It was about
did he?
total cholesterol going up 90 points. And so the lipid panel looks at the one your doctor checks. The standard lipid panel looks at total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, and triglycerides. So there's always more information with that. So your total cholesterol going up could be due to the HDL going up, because when you're actually improving insulin resistance, that's what happens. HDL goes up because when insulin is high, it decreases HDL. And so could that be part of what's going on? I would need to see the full panel. So that's something that would need to have, more discussion with your provider to get them to break that down. But what you really want to pay attention to is not the total cholesterol, people. You want to pay attention to the triglycerides divided by your HDL. That's going to give you your insulin resistance score. So take that lab information and divide out that ratio. If you're less than 1, you're good, regardless how high that total cholesterol is, because we actually need some cholesterol. We forget that we actually need it, even though the guidelines have us decreasing it. We actually need it.
Our body makes it.
But you want that insulin resistance score to be less than 1. And if it's greater than 1.5, if it's 1 to 1.5, yeah, you definitely are somebody at risk. And if it's greater than 2, you really have problems with insulin resistance. So use the ratio more than just the total cholesterol number.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Okay, Johnny, brother, as we wrap this thing up, there's somebody over here who's sitting there looking like this thing is just snake oil. It's some sort of a sales pitch. It's some sort of, whatever they're going to call it. What do you say to that person that's sitting there on the sideline scratching their head saying this sounds legit, but it's also seems like it's too good to be true? What do you say to that person?
I think most people are what condition they're in. They've been in for a while. And so they've been doing exactly what they've been doing to get the results they're currently been getting. So I think in this case, because of how we're approaching it, we're getting your body to change systems. We're getting your body to transition from where it was to where it is. And so by making this particular change that's going to actually start healing your system, even though it might take a while or it might not, but as you get to try to heal it, you have a 90-day money-back guarantee. And so as you step into the system, notice the changes. That's why I tell people, hey, take pictures of yourself. Write down what you're feeling. Write down a diary for yourself, because you will be able to see the transition. If you've been doing your protocol, whatever you've been doing already, and you don't see any changes, it's the same, mundane, whatever. As you start stepping into this particular protocol and your body starts changing, whether it be a good feeling change or not so good feeling change, your body is responding to something that it hadn't had before. And this is all plant-based. And typically we're in a mode of helping to get your body into a better situation, not just masking whatever is going on. So as we're getting to the core issue, the thing that Dr. Tiffany showed about all those conditions that we sometimes compartmentalize. I got a cousin with high blood pressure, a sister with lupus. I got a friend with need to lose weight. We look at those as individual conditions, but at the heart and at the core of it, it's all the same, and that's insulin resistance. And so that's what we're addressing. And so with this protocol, if we can address that and you can start seeing changes, take it for good, because you have 90 days to see how your body is going to ultimately respond to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what? I don't have nothing else to say. Gary put in there, hey, Gary. He said, just do it. That's it. Mic drop.
Just do it. Yeah. Notice how Gary says, hello, Dr. Tiffany. He didn't say anything to Johnny or me.
Just
hello, Dr. Tiffany. I feel the love, Gary. What do you have to lose? Get all your money back if it fails.
So true. So true.
Guys, this was an amazing live stream. Sheena's saying over on TikTok, best protocol I've ever did and will continue to do it for the rest of my life. Guys, this was an amazing live stream. Johnny, I know that Dr. Tiffany, I kind of reached out to her. I was like, I think Johnny has something to do with Crohn's, right? And I know it was kind of a spur of the moment thing. Johnny, I really appreciate that. Dr. Tiffany, yes. I really appreciate. That's the beauty of this team, is that when something comes up, we're like, hey, can we make something happen here? We did. And I really, really, really appreciate you, Johnny. I really appreciate, I always appreciate you, Dr. Tiff. We all love you, Dr. Tiff.
Yes,
Gary isn't alone.
Thanks so much, Johnny. I appreciate you, man. And Jim. And Jim.
Thanks for having me, definitely. So.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week. You guys have a